What if the Super Bowl never happened? Every winter for the last 60 years, millions of Americans have sat on couches, at watch parties, and even in the stadium, if you're wealthy, to watch America's game, the Super Bowl. The game has become a staple in American society and culture and the face of our national sport. But as the day nears closer, every year I find myself pondering, just what if the game we've all come to associate with the NFL never existed? In this video, I want us to ponder together just how different the National Football League would look without its Super Bowl, the impact that difference could have had on the evolution of sports in America, and maybe, just maybe, if we'd be better off without the big game. Let's talk. At the birth of the NFL in 1920, there was no Super Bowl. There wasn't even a championship game, playoffs, or anything like it. At the end of the season, the league awarded the championship to whichever team held the best record at year's end. Don't forget that, that's important. It wouldn't be for nearly another 50 years until the league adopted its first Super Bowl. The game was an exhibition between the American Football League and the National Football League, with the separate league champions going head-to-head for the first time ever. 60 years later, and the Super Bowl is now one of the most anticipated, discussed, and watched games in all of sports worldwide. But what if Lamar Hunt, Pete Rozelle, and those original owners hadn't introduced a championship game all those years back? How different would the league we've grown to love look today? As we imagine that alternate reality, I'm reminded of the European football landscape and the most popular sports league in the whole wide world, the English Premier League. Existing in practice since 1888, the league has never held a championship game or a playoff to determine its winner. And somehow, the league still grew into a multi-billion-dollar behemoth. And by behemoth, I mean the most watched league in the world, an $8.4 billion TV rights deal, and over 1.87 billion followers worldwide. Yeah, the league is doing all right if you ask me. But the one component that makes EPL games so hotly contested, even without a Super Bowl, are the stakes of every match. The points table holds every game to the same standing, where 3 points are awarded for a win and none for a loss. At the end of the season, your points accrued over the entire year determine your fate. Whether teams are competing for a spot in the European Conference League, the UEFA Champions League, to avoid relegation, or the ultimate prize of the league title. The stakes make nearly every match vitally important, from the top of the table all the way down to the bottom dwellers. Imagine an NFL where every game mattered equally all season long, from week 1 to week 18. But for relegation to be a motivating factor, then the league would have had to have adopted a national promotion and relegation system, to increase the stakes, of course. For those that may not know, this system rewards teams that finish at the top of the table with the reward of moving up to a higher league, with better teams, better resources, and better competition, while at the same time motivating teams near the bottom of the table to not finish in the last places, or else risk being demoted to a lower league. Now, in today's NFL, the concept seems unimaginable. Way too many money-hungry billionaires that would never give up their benefits with the current system. Yeah, I can't see Jerry Jones accepting America's team getting relegated to the second division. But imagine if instead of the Super Bowl merger back in 1967, the 15 teams of the National Football League and the 9 teams of the American Football League merged to form a Super League of American football. I mean, let's think about it. 12 teams in the National Football Premier League and 12 teams in the American Football Championship League. Over time, the league could have grown with promotions and relegations galore, and maybe even added more teams. So much so that as the reimagined NFL reached 32 or even 36 teams, they could have added a third division of American football. Now, this might sound like a lot and a bit impractical until we look at our European brethren from the earlier mentioned English Premier League. The EPL is part of the English Football Association and is the first division in the English football pyramid, followed by the English Football League Championship as the second division and League One as the third division. Premier is 1, Championship is 2, League One is 3. Okay, that part is admittedly a bit confusing, but the pyramid spans out 9 levels deep and includes more than 7,000 teams and over 100,000 players. If the Super Bowl never happened, What if the NFL adopted some of the dozens of failed professional leagues from the past into our own American football pyramid? In the almost 60 years since the AFL NFL merger and the first Super Bowl, there have been nearly 30 major and minor professional football leagues that failed to survive in our current system. Imagine a world where even a fraction of those leagues did survive and were brought into the American football pyramid. There's no doubt that the desire for football in America could have supported this system. Only in America do we have a semi-pro model that's grown into its own billion-dollar industry through the lens of collegiate athletics and the NCAA. These days, any minor football league has a tough road to success because of the NCAA's dominance of the minors. But just how different could our understanding of college football be in this alternate reality? If we look around the world, college sports as a spectacle is virtually non-existent. In almost every other country, college sports are what we would view as something like an after-school activity. Here in the States, not only do college teams excel, but we have high school football teams with stadiums that hold more than 19,000 fans. That would be larger than 3 Premier League soccer stadiums. Americans love football, and how different could things be today if there was a National Football League that included a pyramid scheme? Well, not a pyramid scheme, but a pyramid system. And that led me to think, what else could have changed if the NFL chose not to have a Super Bowl all those years ago? How would other sports have responded to the choice to forego what is now the American model? Regular season, playoffs, then championship game. For example, would Major League Soccer operate under the American model or adopt the league table model to determine their champion? Would the MLS also then adopt the promotion and relegation model following in the NFL's footsteps? Could this change lead to the league becoming one of the global superpowers in soccer? Could the US have actually competed with the greatest soccer nations in the world, like France, Argentina, or Spain? Maybe even finally having won that men's World Cup and being respected globally like in basketball and baseball? Speaking of baseball, would potentially even baseball adopt a league table model? Okay. Maybe a reality without the World Series is a bit of a stretch. But I can't help but wonder how impactful the NFL Super Bowl has been on every other American sports league today. And not solely in America, but worldwide. Like the annual halftime show. The show as we know it started with local college and high school bands bringing musical entertainment to the big game back in the 70s. It would grow into the legend it is today, with pioneers like Michael Jackson, Patti LaBelle, and Diana Ross paving the way in its current form. The success of the Super Bowl halftime show influenced other halftime shows, like the National Rugby League Grand Final, halfway across the world in Australia. The NRL Grand Final has been held since 1908, and for the last 50 years, there's been a halftime performer just like the NFL's big final. And in 2026, the FIFA World Cup final match, which is often the most watched sporting event in the entire world, by the way, will host its first ever halftime show performance, undeniably inspired by the NFL's decades of global success. So it's true. We can't deny how successful the Super Bowl has been for the game of football. Billions of dollars generated, popularity the world over, and a de facto American holiday. But could things actually be better if the Super Bowl never happened? In a time where we still wonder how to stop teams from tanking mid-season, and when we struggle to resist the championship or bust mindset that makes many games throughout the regular season feel pointless and uninspired, how much of this relates directly back to the championship game model? Without the big game at the end of the season, would things be better for football fans on the whole? Imagine how different all of our favorite sports could look today if the Super Bowl was never birthed all the way back in 1967. Would many popular sports across the country adopt the promotion relegation model that could have sparked robust minor league systems in football and basketball all across the US? Even a nationwide collection of teams for an American Football League pyramid system. Possibly even eliminating the huge success of college sports as we know them today in the US. At the end of the day, we just don't know how different sports, or truly how different the world would be today without the Super Bowl. But there's no shame in asking, what if? And speaking of what if rugby actually holds the key to saving the NFL's future? Check out this video for more. Until next time, thanks for watching. Peace.